Alright everyone, welcome back to more Suzerain. JP3VNsNow.com with you here. And we are in kind of the end game here. I don't know if this is going to be our final session with the game, or if we'll have one more episode. Either way, I will probably do one final episode, or kind of an epilogue, I guess you can say, talking about what I enjoyed about the game overall, and what I would love to see in DLC or a sequel. I've reviewed this thing, I've talked about this game so much, and it seems like it's really starting to pick up steam now as a title that should be studied, and definitely it's getting more respect and recognition. And having played this game again, and I've played other routes, millennialist, communist, dictator, but just the way you have to balance everything here in this more democratic route is so satisfying. Every decision feels like it is a pivotal choice. You feel the country changing as you sign legislation, as you put forward policies. I said from the beginning, this is what I've wanted from a political simulator for a very, very long time, instead of just kind of setting budgets and coldly messing with numbers. And every time I play it, the experience doesn't get old. This has been over a year now. The experience has not gotten old. And I sincerely hope, for me, that doesn't change for a long, long time. I really do enjoy this game, and hopefully you can look down in the description if you have not played this game. If you have followed this entire session, I don't even know now, nearly 20 hours of me playing this game. If you have not yet bought a copy of Suzerain for yourself, the link to Steam is in the description box. I'm getting this all out the way just in case we're about to hit the credits in this session. So yeah, link in the description box. Definitely give them a shout out. Let them know that VNs Now sent you there. And pick up a copy of the game. Don't wait for a sale. Go ahead and get it full price. It is absolutely worth it. That being said, and intelligence has confirmed that the information from the Rumbergian whistleblower was true. Rumberg does have nuclear weapons capable of threatening Sordland and Eastern Marcopa. The Alliance of the Nations ratified a barrage of sanctions on Rumberg by the member states. So now they're under sanction. The entire world is watching them. They'd be fools to attack us, but they are pretty foolish. With the election looming, I'd practically been sleeping at the Maroon Palace lately, but tonight I made a deliberate effort to get home early. Frank was coming to dinner for the first time in months. I told everyone I wanted a family supper, just like the old days. Monica had promised to cook something very special. I didn't know if it was my imagination, but there seemed to be more guards outside my complex than usual. I hurried past them, went inside, and locked the front door behind me. I heard footsteps coming my way. "Hi, Papa!" I opened my arms to embrace my daughter. She hugged me back happily. "How was school today?" Deanna shrugged. "I won a prize at the science fair. Honestly, I think they were teaching girls different stuff before because they knew we were smarter than boys." "You might be right." Deanna smiled and pointed to the kitchen. "Mama's in there. I got to do some homework before dinner." I followed her with my eyes as she went upstairs. She was starting to look more and more like her mother. I stepped into the kitchen. Monica was stirring a pot on the stove, her back turned to me. I snuggled behind Monica and gave her a hug. She screamed and dropped the ladle. When she realized it was me, she smiled and gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Sorry, Anton. I guess I've been on edge lately. Why don't you come fix yourself a drink in the living room? I'll let you know when dinner is ready." I sat down in the living room, poured myself a bit of whiskey, and flipped through one of Monica's women's magazines. It took me a second to realize Monica herself was on the cover. The headline, Sordland's Woman of the Year. Suddenly Frank burst through the door. Sorry I'm late. I was with Shayna. We were, studying." He flung his backpack in the corner and sprawled out in a chair. "I hope you two are being careful." "Don't you worry. I've seen what fatherhood does to a man." Frank smirked. He looked like he was about to say something else, but Deanna came down the stairs. Frank! Hey, Pipsqueak. The two of them ignored me for a moment and started chatting away about their schools. Monica appeared in the doorway and smiled warmly at the sight of the three of us. "Dinner's ready. The three of us gathered around the dining room table. Monica ladled out bowls full of zabla. The stew tasted as good as it smelled. I raised my glass for toast. Monica, Frank, and Diana slowly followed suit, looking puzzled. I know the past 4 years have been hard on all of us. I know I haven't been there for any of you as much as I should have. I hope I can make it up to you someday. Monica's eyes were shining. Once the election's over, I'm taking you all on holiday. Monica smiled. I like that. What about you, Deanna? Yeah. Frank, are you coming too? Maybe. You know, I've been studying twice as hard to prove myself since everyone found out how I really got into Holster State. Where are we going to go? Lady's choice. Monica and Deanna grinned at each other. Frank rolled his eyes. Yes, great. More family time. For now, can we finish dinner? Of course. The four of us ate and animatedly discussed our holiday plans. Once we had cleared our plates, I went up to my study. I still had work to do. And it's little moments like that. Like just they nailed the politics, but they nailed the personal as well. You feel it, man. I love it. The debate between the candidates in the next Swordlish presidential election is slated to take place tomorrow evening at the Swordlish Broadcasting Corporation headquarters in Lockhaven. It will be broadcast live on television, and several million households are expected to tune in. In a historic first for the country, the candidates of the 1957 Swordlish presidential election will be debating each other on live TV. Our sister network, the Swordlish Broadcast Corporation, will host President Rayne and his challengers in its studio, where they will be asked a series of questions about their plans for the country and the next 4 years. Tune in next week and be sure to pick up an issue of Sordland Today afterwards for our in-depth analysis. In today's Communist Party rally, the CSP leader, Dennis Stoller, he's got a very strong resemblance to another communist. He made a speech to the largest crowd he ever assembled. Tens of thousands came together and involved him to give their support to the CPS leadership, Communist Party of Sordland. In his speech, they may have censored us from the press, bullied us on the streets, took our votes away from us, but hope is not lost. They may have arrested us, tortured us, and killed us, but they could never silence us. This year, CSP will form the government, and I will transform this nation, said Stoller. Not likely, but I do appreciate your resolve. ATO and CSP signal sanctions on Runeberg, yet neither side can allow Runeberg to go on with nuclear weapons. ATO leader President Dwight Walker and CSP leader Leon Maliev made history yesterday with a joint announcement to address the threat of Runeberg. The declaration signals sanctions on Runeberg if the threatening moves continued in eastern Maricopa. During the speech, they also thanked Sordland for their efforts to bring more attention to the issue. Overnight, Runeberg economy has taken a strong hit due to the trade. President Rayne's strategy to isolate Runeberg has proven to be working. So yeah, we've got them in check. If they attack us, it'll be checkmate. Alright. The time has come to focus on... refocus on security in our first term. If we win a second term, we'll focus on education. It's time to the military. We will do military reforms as well, but we put a lot of investment into healthcare and security. It'll be education's turn next. The makeup girl dusted my cheeks with one last coat of powder as the lights in the Swordlish Broadcasting Corporation studio flickered to life. Back during the 53 election, I had debated my political opponents on the radio. Now the debate was to be televised, like everything else these days. I pulled out a pocket mirror and looked at my face. I didn't remember all these wrinkles being there 4 years ago. I took my place in one of the uncomfortable wooden chairs next to the moderator's desk, beside the other presidential candidates. The moderator walked in and sat at her desk. I recognized her as a former SBC reporter I encountered on a number of occasions. She nodded at me and the others. We will begin in just a few minutes. I'm looking forward to an evening of polite and civil discourse. One can only hope. She smiled at me gratefully before turning back towards the cameras. After a quick countdown, we were live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Sordland Broadcasting Company is pleased to welcome all candidates in the 1957 Sordland presidential election. To my left is Anton Rayne, the incumbent president of Sordland. Glad to be here. Franz Rector, leader of the PFJP. A new era of freedom and justice is about to begin. Kazara Kibner, leader of the NFP. Grace Sordland. Manson Lake of the Bludish Workers' Party, formerly an independent assembly member. Indeed, the great Fete Ajal and I once dreamed of a lasting peace for Bloody and Sordland. After shocking poisoning, I have recommitted to that dream and to my party. Our last candidate is Dennis Stoller of the Communist Party. Jesus! We wanted democracy, we got it! Like, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 presidential candidates. 25% or up may be more than enough to win this presidential election. We're 5 presidential candidates. That's right. We may have failed to meet the threshold last time, but the poor and downtrodden of Sordland will unite and rise up. I thought I saw Franz roll his eyes. He and Dennis had been fierce rivals since the latter left the PFJP decades ago. Now that everyone's been introduced, let's proceed to the questions. President Rayne has already outlined some of his second-term plans. What about the rest of you? What will be your first priority? What will your first priority be when you take office? You already know what I'm going to say. President Rayne has pointed us in the right direction, but only the PFJP can transform Sordland into a true democracy. I will use his new reforms as a launchpad for new laws that ensure representation for every single Sordland citizen. Kazara cleared his throat. As president, I will crack down on the enemies of the state who are threatening to tear this country apart. Separatists, militants, foreign agents, criminal cartels, we shall show them all the meaning of Sordland justice. The way you show Fede Ajal, they say he might never walk again. What happened to Fede is a shame. I would say that caution is advised to all who threaten a path against our country. Enough. This is a debate, not a platform for your racist hate-mongering. Mansa nodded appreciatively and turned to the camera. This simply proves the point I was about to make. While President Rayne has made great strides in dismantling the mechanisms of oppression in Sordland, the hateful attitudes that built them are still very much present. We will never be free as long as minorities and women are still seen as second-class citizens. And of course, the number one mechanism of oppression is capitalism. Actually, let's move on. President Rayne, you already pledged to make education a focus of your second term. Would you care to elaborate on that? Devoting more resources towards education already paid enormous dividends during my first term. Why stop now? You had a chance to reform Sordland's education system, but you left it in shambles. We can address those in comments later if there's time. Moving on. Mr. President, just prior to tonight's debate, your press office signaled that there could be grander plans in store for your second term. Is that correct? Yes, and I can't wait to unveil them. Please go on. I want Sordland to put a man on the moon. We must grant a basic living wage to every man and woman in Sordland, unemployed or otherwise. The candidate around me gasped, even Monson and Dennis, who looked pleased. I'm happy some of our party's so-called radical ideas are beginning to filter into the political mainstream. You are both mad. This incentivizing work will crater this country's economy. My citizens will still work. My plan will only ensure nobody has to go homeless. Very interesting. Let's move on to the economy then. Now that the recession is no longer a threat, how will all of you bring the Sordland economy forward? With all due respect, that isn't a priority for my party at the moment. Booming markets and increasing CEO salaries aren't an indicator of whether regular Sordland workers can put food on their tables. Sordland is as wealthy as it needs to be. Our task is to redistribute that wealth so that all citizens can prosper. I couldn't agree more that Sordland needs to help its working families, which is why I developed a comprehensive program of tax initiatives for small businesses. I believe President Rayne pointed us in the right direction with a market economy, but state intervention is needed to ensure the free market produces results close to its theoretical potential. And I will continue and expand upon the privatization of our major corporations. There is a massive potential in our country's economic capacity. I'll push for autarky? Autarky, yeah, I guess that's it. And transferring technological knowledge to our local industries. Sordland must control all strategic resources of production and be as independent as possible from foreign influences. He looked at the camera. We must increase our economic capabilities, then turn our goods into quality yet affordable export materials for other developing nations. I'd also impose high taxes on the rich to fund military industrial research and development. On top of that, I would remove Rayne's ridiculous vice tax so that swords can once more enjoy an affordable drink and smoke after a long working day. Dennis made a scoffing sound. The real danger to our economy is oligarchs like Walter Tusk and Marcel Caranti. No one man must be allowed to hold so much wealth. I refrained from commenting. Go ahead, y'all. The moderator cleared her throat. We're getting off track. Mr. President, would you care to comment on your plans for the economy? As I said earlier, my plan for a guaranteed living wage for everyone will lead to unprecedented prosperity. Thank you, President Rayne. My next question concerns Sordland's foreign relations. To the non-incumbent candidates, would you maintain the international alliances President Rayne has formed? I would do more than just maintain them, I would expand upon them. Membership in ATO is the obvious next step forward for Sordland. I can't believe we were ever in the same party. Dennis turned to look at me. Well, no, let's be on Arcadia don't give a damn about us. We will only go stronger by marching arm in arm with our socialist brothers. Our socialist brothers and sisters. Sure, the point is, let's move on to the next candidate. I lowered the election threshold to give Mr. Stoller and his party a voice. Let him speak. Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to stress that the superficial surface benefits of ATO are nothing compared to the deeper bonds cultivated by membership in CSP. I would like to add that we have been unfairly ignoring the newly emancipated nations from Rica and Xena. Aiding these countries as they find their feet would strike a blow against the forces of colonialism and could prove beneficial to us as well. If I may, all this talk of East and West, socialist and capitalist is missing the point. Of course, I would advocate for staying on good terms with Arcadia, but Sordland's strongest ties must be our tribal cousin in Volsland and Agnolia. Together we conquered the lands of Rome so many centuries ago, and together, we who are pure of blood will rise up and reclaim this continent. Pure of blood. I wonder what that means. That's all the time we have for questions. May I just point out that I have increased Sordland's international standing more than any of the Swedish president. As I said, we need to move on to the next topic. Sounds like a proper debate. The next topic is of the personal interest to many people watching at home. In the wake of the president's recent legislation, do you plan to act further to increase women's rights? I'll stop you right there. Oh, God. Lay on, McDuff. Thanks to Anton Rayne's laws, entire generations of young swords will grow up motherless. Are you serious? Women can have careers and families at the same time. Perhaps we men can even assume some of the childcare duties. I have consulted intensely with my deputy, Manoli Suhail, on this. With the PFG in power, we would expand on Rayne's laws and help unprecedented numbers of women enter the Swedish workforce. More women in the workforce sounds nice on paper, but it's unfortunately not as simple as that. Look at the countries like Arcadia. The women in higher-paying jobs are those privileged enough to hand off their domestic duties to household staff. As your president, I will create policies specifically aimed at women from disadvantaged communities, so that no female sword is lifted up at the expense of another. I'm going to say, I didn't say anything. Anything to add, Mr. President? This term was just the beginning. In the next 4 years, I will achieve full equality for all women. That brings me to my next question. What about the status of Sordland's minorities? And speaking particularly about the blues. The work I've done to further the bluish cause was just the beginning. We still have a long way to go. Munson smiled. President Rayne has proven himself a more tolerant leader than his predecessor, but anti-Buddhist sentiment remains deeply ingrained in our society. I could have given the floor to Monsoon, but that's not like... Yeah. I've got to stay at the head of the table. Sorry, old man. Electing Sordland's first leader of Bludish descent would help to create a bridge of lasting peace between our communities. For someone who is against the different treatment of races, you seem to put one race ahead of the other. His eye focused on him. Sordland must be led by capable people who understand and can represent the majority of the population. This has been the case since our great country was founded. I find it very dangerous that merits are thrown out of the window in support of an agenda, a blinded thought. Friends smoothly cut in. I'll spare your viewers another of the NFP's racist tirades. As you can tell, xenophobia is alive and well in Sordland, despite the president's best efforts. I will work with the WBPB to ensure the Bludish people get the equal status they have been denied for so long. Yes, we will all work together. I believe it's time to move on to another subject. Shirley flipped through her nose. It seems to be good enough time as any to bring up the allegations that President Rayne has abused his power while in office. Nothing but a smear campaign to prevent my re-election. Rest assured, the PFJP is committed to purging corruption from the Maroon Palace. Is this a debate or a witch hunt? Can we move on? The other candidates tittered. I ignored them. It's time we moved on anyway. It appears that we have time for one last question. President Rayne, given this country's rather turbulent political history, will you accept will you accept the results of the election, whatever they are? What kind of question is that? Of course I'll accept the results. The mere fact that you have to ask this question is proof that Sordland is far from the democracy it must become. Surely this is a disrespectful question to ask of a sitting president. The leader of Sordland shall stay in power for however long his people and God wills. She was well within her right to ask that. The president must never be elevated above anyone else. Right. I'd like to end the evening by allowing each candidate to make a short closing statement. I am grateful to the president for finally paving the way for my party into assembly. But I ask you, why stop there? Sordid socialism is upon our doorstep. All that is left to do is embrace it. Now that the smaller parties have been given a voice, it is time to rise up and make your own heard, man and woman, blue or sword. I know Sordland is ready for democracy. Under the PFJP, you will enjoy a freedom you have never known before. For a Sordland that truly belongs to its own people, there is only one way to vote. President Rayne? People of Sordland, we have only just begun. Very well, thanks to all the candidates for your time tonight. The Sordland Broadcasting Corporation wishes all of our viewers a good evening. She motioned to the crew and the camera started rolling. And I stopped tripping up over my own tongue. Guaranteed rage. Raid gets radical. Showing how mainstream the formerly fringe ideas of Sordland's progressive smaller parties have become, incumbent President Anton Rayne claimed he would explore granting a regular guaranteed living wage to Sordid citizens if elected for a second term. The idea has long been debated among members of the Communist Party, the Workers' Party of Bludia, and some of the more left-leaning representatives of the PFJP. We at the Radical believe the concept has both upsides and downsides. Either way, we are pleasantly surprised that a former establishment figure like Rayne is even considering it. It's a little bit more grounded than, hey, I'm going to put a man on the moon. That should get us a couple of points in the polls, too. Even if I don't implement it. Sometime later. Looks like there's only one item in the agenda, an election speech. My term was almost over. I paced back and forth behind the stage, gathering my strength. This was the last major event before the election. A massive crowd awaited me. It was the biggest gathering of people we managed to assemble during my campaign. And if my advisors were right, it was also the largest ever assembled in Saul Square. Bouldered by Holster State University, Hold Sword Art Sanctuary, and the Library of Sordland, and a historic city hall, the square could accommodate nearly 1 million people, and tonight it was packed. The noise of the crowd rose up around me on all sides. Would I ever address so many people again? Suddenly, the music began. It was Verkton Sistar, a famous song by the composer of the Swedish national anthem, Victory is Close. When Gloria announced my name and invited me to the stage, it was finally time. In my dark gray suit and maroon tie, I walked up to the podium as the crowd started applauding. I saw a sea of USP flags and banners before me. It was as if people had painted the square maroon. I took a good look at my electorate. People of Sordland. Today, the future belongs to the people. The future belongs to Sordland. I welcome you all. I am honored to be running alongside a great woman like Gloria Torrey. Gloria waved at the crowd as they cheered loudly. I must thank Monica for her hard work in leading the campaign to expand the rights of Swedish women. Monica walked out onto the stage when I said that. The crowd cheered one more time. And my greatest thanks goes out to all of you who came here today. You are the backbone of this campaign. Your noise is shaking the whole country. I had to pause and wait for the giant wave of applause to subside. 4 years ago, you and I began a journey together. We came together to bring prosperity to this glorious nation. With the power you entrusted upon us, my administration fought to serve your interests alone. We wrote history when we celebrated our changes to the outdated Constitution of 1929. Economic instability and depression plagued our country, but together we overcame them. As I promised 4 years ago, I made law enforcement the focus of my administration, and our country is safer and more secure for it. We improved rural treatment substantially by hiring health staff and upgrading equipment. We provided the Swedish people with high quality and more accessible education. We established the minimum wage and expanded rights and legal protection for our workers. Every one of my decisions was made to serve all Swedish citizens regardless of their ethnic background, religion, or personal wealth. My term saw a great expansion of women's rights. Swedish women now finally have a voice. I worked hard to expand the rights of our minorities. I formed the Commission for Bluish Rights and gave amnesty to all blues prosecuted for their ethnicity. By establishing the Free Trade Commission, we ensured healthy competition, so our citizens could buy high-quality products for less. The crowd was cheering President Rayne. I took a look at my supporters. They were now yelling 4 more years. Now it is our task to build a more hopeful Sordland, a Sordland that is confident in its ability to reach for the heavens. That is why I need your help. Let's build a bold, prosperous, and forward-looking Sordland, a united Sordland. The audience broke out into applause again. Now we have historic goals within our reach. We will keep building a more hopeful Sordland. Nobody can hold us back. Together, we have been building our dream of Sordland, the great Swedish dream. And today, in this square, that dream is renewed. Let's go forward. The morning, Agmornar Hakoran. Thunderous applause erupted. Everyone was cheering my name. I waved at the crowd before I left the podium. That was it. The elections were approaching once again, just like in the beginning. Well, I guess it's time to find out. On election day, millions went out to cast their votes, setting turnout records in Sordland. For a second time, your moment of truth had arrived. November 3rd, 1957, the United Sordland Party came out as the winner again, securing your second term as president. The people have spoken again. The National Front was now the second biggest party in the assembly, leaving the PFJP in third. We have, the women's issue has caused a lot of, well, it's not just the women's issue, it's minority rights. It scared a lot of conservatives off, but we kept enough in the tent. The die had been recast. In a historic moment, the Communist Party of Sordland managed to enter the assembly for the first time, surpassing the 8% threshold. The Bluish vote divided between the Workers' Party of Bludia and the Bluish Freedom Party, resulting in both of them finishing below the threshold, failing to be represented yet again. January 1958. Because the Constitution was easier to amend now, most of the opposition came forth with demands to pursue further constitutional reform ahead of your inauguration. Many citizens were also starting to sympathize with them. In response, you promised to cooperate. You promised to cooperate as soon as your official inauguration was complete. Your second term was about to begin. January 18th, 1958. You stood on the podium overlooking the famous Hill of Pride once again. It was a particularly cold day. When you looked at the thousands of people with hopeful eyes, your shoulders grew heavy and you shivered. You dreamed about the future. You saw a wealthier Sordland. The country saw massive economic development over your next term. The remnants of the Saul era were long gone. Businesses became more profitable, and the markets were free of regulation. As the market became freer, the people of Sordland also became free. As the economic boom continued, the most critical problems vanished one by one. Sordland was finally letting go of the past. With the sacrifices made by you and your allies, everything became possible. You were building a dream nation together. You encouraged more civic responsibility, and everyone contributed to the greater good in their own way. It was a democratic and just Sordland. You saw the people smile and smiled back to them. Monica was gaining traction in the capital as one of the fiercest women's rights activists, rallying thousands of Sordish women to fight for change. Your support buoyed Monica to new heights. With her activism and your administration, Sordish women made strides towards true parity. Diana became a strong and successful young woman. Frank was a family man already. You were proud of him. No more obstacles for the Sordish dream were left. Now the morning had truly come. The morning brought a united and happy Sordland, an independent and formidable Sordland. You knew it was possible. A fierce gust of wind shook you out of your daydream. Monica squeezed your hand. Years had not passed. You were still on the podium, waiting to be sworn in. Chief Justice Hawker stood next to you and said, "Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sordland." In the end, we hit centrist reformist dead on. We assume now since 1954, Gloria Torrey was succeeded Peter Vector. Between 1954 and 1958, 2.2 million people found a job. 82% less maternal deaths were recorded. 8,222 people died to criminal violence. Shame. 779 people were killed during the clashes between the Red Youth and Young Swords. 86,450 soldiers became unemployed. Necessary reforms, that was unfortunate. 3,390 people of Bluish descent were jailed and 239 were killed. Investigations were launched on 311 state officials. 614, 470 women joined the workforce, and 805, 380 girls were enrolled at secondary education for the first time. 5 million people lost their state health care coverage. Unfortunate. 5,200 state employees lost their job, while 3 oligarchs obtained 20% of the Swedish economy. That's the cost. But we hit centrist reformists dead on. The ideological successor to Weezy. Not exactly pure capitalist, but close. Apparently, Peter was dead in the middle. Yeah. And that is our run. I have to say I'm surprised. It must have been something that changed, because I was expecting to trigger a war with Roomberg there with my choices, but the ATO and the CSP working together put them in check fairly quickly, and it all worked out for the best. We achieved our second term. I think upon reflection, I have just enough time here. I will skip making an epilogue video entirely. This will be the last video of the playthrough. And I'll just say this again, love the game. I hope I feel like this every single time I play this game. My only wish is that we could shuffle the cabinet. I think I've said that before. But had I had my choice in what to do, in a second term, in memory of Horst Nowak, God bless you, and God bless your memory. If I had a choice to shuffle the cabinet, I would have put Lucian as our Minister of Foreign Affairs. I would have had, hell, I'm tripping on his name now. The reformist in the Assembly, Clavin, Alban Clavin. I would have had him take Lilius Graff's place at the Ministry of Interior. And I would have brought in Franz Rector as my chief strategist. And there may have been a... Wait, no, excuse me. Let me back that up. No, that's a decent enough cabinet. That would have worked perfectly, I think. And those changes I would have been moved, and I would have announced during the presidential debate. But overall, hopefully we get a sequel. Hopefully we get some DLC. Whatever they decide to do, I'm definitely investing in Torpor Games' next project. But this game, literally every single time I play it, every single time without fail, I don't regret a second. I love every second. I hope you guys did too. This will be the last video of this series. A new series, a new Let's Play will be announced in the near future, along with updates on what's happening on the site and why I've been away from reviews for so long. But for now, thank you for watching. It has been my pleasure to bring you this classic video game. Suzerain by Torpor Games, brought to you by Fellow Traveler. The link is in the description. Check them out. Like I said before, do not wait on the sale. If you've enjoyed this playthrough, go ahead and pick it up today. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. The holidays are actually around the corner, so I imagine I will find some prime nonsense to bring to the channel. Usually that's when I get into the sillier games, so I'll find something fun instead of all these dour politics. But that'll be the future. For now, I've been JP III for VMsNow.com. I'll see you in the next one.